Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to HMP. I hope you're ready and put your favorite sci-fi tropes in a blender made for $5 because today we're talking Trancers from 1984 and the House of Full Moon. I am your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, Tim Thomerson is his spirit animal, Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
You'd think I'd pick a better one, but I didn't.
No, and he spent the entirety of this movie yelling at his son, write that down, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I don't even know what you guys eat for lunch.
Yeah, who knows what they eat in the past? What
did they eat in the 1980s?
Oh, it could have been anything, really. Could have been some Snickers bars. Was whatchamacallit around at that point, or was that just strictly a '90s candy bar?
Yeah, it was because whatchamacallit was my favorite.
Oh, whatchamacallit was around, when I was young enough that me and my grandfather could reenact those whatchamacallit candy bars commercials where he would say, like, what do you want? I said, I want a whatchamacallit. And he'd say, well, you got to tell me what it is. And I'd say, it's a whatchamacallit. And that was exactly what the old timey commercials were on TV. Me and my grandfather acted that out.
For a second there because you had a long pause there.
Choke up on your mic a little bit.
Me and my grandfather would recreate whatchamacallit. I thought you guys were in the kitchen concocting magic.
That would rock and roll.
But no, we got the magic today of one Charles Band. I don't know if it's what kind of magic. Might be black magic. We'll find out. But today we're talking Trancers from 1984. This is so what our decision was for Patreon and everything was we're going to put a little bit of sportsmanship into it because let's talk about what the vote was.
And also, I'm going to just be fair that you and I were like deer in the headlights as if after 8 years of doing this, we forgot that we have to watch a different movie every single week because we totally acted as if we'd never heard of the idea.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what else to watch.
No. So what we did was we took all of our every single month. People over at patreon.com/HMP they not only get the pre-show, they get the post-show, they get the Dinger Zone, and they get to vote on what we watch. Here were the options. We had Sean Loves Spaceships, of which we are in this category for next month. That's where we're going. Second place was Once Bitten. That was our werewolf. Third place was Kaiju. But in the last place was Charles Band's A Band of Bummers. And so we figure, hey, especially like once we start with next month's votes and everything, we're going to make it so whatever the bottom of the rung is we're gonna do like a movie from that category for the following one. Exactly, a one-off sort of thing. Put a little gamesmanship into the voting, maybe. I don't know. That was a weird little thought that person I came up with.
If people straight up say, please don't do that, we won't do that.
No, but at the same time too, I like to put it this way: the Charles Band of Bummers got 3% of the vote. That's still a percentage. If it was
somebody gets served here.
If it was a two-gun situation and there were like 0% votes, then yeah, maybe we ought not do that one. But if there's like a couple, if you get into that 3% range, maybe we'll shake a stick at it. Who's to say?
It's sort of like, your fantasy football league has 2 trophies, one for the winner and one for last place. Maybe we do that kind of thing
football. Here. Oh my God, guys, I gotta go. No, I'm kidding. My fantasy football is until Wednesday.
Oh,
I only do fantasy CFL, so I'm good for a while.
Ooh, thank heavens. But if you'd like to be one of those people that helps vote over there at patreon.com/HMP, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, check us out. Whatever level that you would like to support us at, be it $1 on up, whatever you think this podcast is worth, just turn that into a dollar form and send it our way and get more stuff in the meantime, man. We really appreciate all of you fine people for doing that. And like we said, the Sean Loves Spaceships is our movie our thing for next month. What that first movie is, we'll talk about that at the end of the show and everything. So let's get into it. Here's the IMDb plot line for Trancers. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. A gruff bounty hunter travels back in time to the 1980s Los Angeles to stop a twisted criminal who can transform people into zombie-like creatures. That's not too bad as far as IMDb goes.
I think it nailed it.
This is written by Danny Bilson, who did The Rocketeer, probably most famously, and Paul DeMeo, who also did, I think he did a little bit of that Rocketeer as well, but he did a lot of the Trancers movies, as well as James Bond video games that were like post-GoldenEye. He also did like Red Faction, Metro Last Light, and that old TV show Viper. You remember Viper? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He wrote
the one about
Viper.
the car made by Dodge.
Yes, the Dodge
Yes.
Viper. Dodge made a car and go. You know what we need to do? We need to make a whole TV show around this car. Now it's like
and here's
Knight
what's
Rider,
weird. if someone is not familiar with the show, they're going to think that was Bruce making a stupid Bruce joke. But I was actually talking about the show you were referencing, wasn't I?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, good. Just wanted to be clear because sometimes I remember things wrong.
No. Viper was
also Paul DeMeo was also the creator, the showrunner for the Flash TV show.
Oh, yeah. There's a couple of that stuff in there as well. So
him and Berlanti were tight, I guess.
And
it's the Flash, right? It's the
90s,
the original one from the 90s.
I know, the one with John Wesley Shipp. Wait, never mind. That doesn't narrow it down. Pray continue.
And of course, directed by Charles Band of Full Moon fame and everything. I don't think anyone needs to, get the lowdown on who that guy is. But Bruce, you sent us a comic a page of this of a Trancers thing that at the bottom said like based off the hit 2 movies, which I thought was fantastic of how they were, folding it all in there.
Well, Charles Band, we've both consumed in some way or the other. I listened to the audiobook.
That's how I did.
Yeah, Charles Band's Memoirs from a Puppet Master, where he just says, plain and simple, when he was starting out, particularly once he reached the direct-to-home market, he wanted to be like the movie equivalent of Marvel Comics. He put his own little version of Stan's soapbox at the end of the VHS tapes, and his goal was to have a new movie come out every month. So it was like going to pick up your copy of Captain America or Iron Man, but instead you're going to get your full moon feature and have crossovers and stuff like that. So yes, it doesn't surprise me that everything Charles Band owns, he has tried his best to bring to comic books. I think most recently he's been working with Action Lab Danger Zone, and which happened to be the first comic book company to pull Chubby Wizard for their promotional materials, to use a pull quote about their Ginger Dead Man comics. So
heck yeah,
that is my comic book relationship with Charles Band, and Full Moon Features and Empire, of course, is the era that Trancers came from. But here's something I really want to know, though, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a list?
I do. If that wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this Charles Band classic, because this sucker's got everything. We got Tim Thomerson. He's basically Charles Band's Robert De Niro, if you will. We got right? We got Hank Azaria's ex-wife. We also have, wait, do you like Blade Runner? Well, what about zombies? Not sold yet? Okay, how about time travel? We got that and more. How much more? Oh, yeah, Babe Ruth is here. We got Aunt Rachel from Family Matters, Mr. Wilhelm from Seinfeld, fancy cars, crummy lasers, time travel to the current time of the movie that the movie is taking place in. Money saved, says I. Those saved pennies going to get you some crummy laser guns, snazzy dressing, convertible driving, watch stopping, bullet dodging, building falling, zombifying people, Agent Smith style. Did I mention this was a year before Back to the Future? Did the Bob steal from Charles Band, I wonder? There was no bubbling music. Why is that? I don't know. That's weird. The camera was in focus most of the time. Also very strange for these movies. And it was an hour and 16 minutes. But if that's all the time that you have left on planet Earth, might I say that you take that hour and 16 to last as long as humanly possible? You check out Trancers, because this movie's at everything.
Wow. Good job, man.
This movie is an hour 16, but my God, it's so long.
It's the perfect length. Nope, it's the perfect length. This is a 76-minute movie. Like, Charles Band knows how long these movies are.
It does not feel it. It does not feel like a 76-minute long movie.
It feels like, I swear, I will watch any Lord of the Rings extended edition before I watch this hour and 16-minute film again.
Also,
because that would travel so much faster.
76% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, right? So that can't be a coincidence.
So what?
Numerology, 76.
Numerology.
It is I cannot believe that there are 6 of these full-length feature films.
Yeah.
There's 6 of them.
Let me say something here, because I'm shocked by the way you guys are acting, because this is regarded as a classic, isn't it?
No.
Well, I mean, it's regarded as a like, for Full Moon, they did a decent enough job.
Well, this isn't Full Moon.
Well,
but this is Charles Band's. I want to talk about this, though, because I find this interesting. I learned this from the biography. But this is Charles Band's favorite movie from his Empire Pictures era. Mm-hmm. And the reason that Full Moon Features exists is because he owed $26 million to a French bank. And by the way, it's hard for me to feel bad for someone who qualified to borrow $26 million. Like, it's tough that he fell behind on the payments, but your life was pretty good until that payment was a little too late. So they said, hey, we'll forgive your debt if you give us Empire Pictures, like the whole kit and caboodle.
Oh, yeah. I remember this part.
And he negotiated specifically to keep Trancers and let them have everything else, because this was the most special movie to him and he wanted to make all the sequels. He gave up Ghoulies, which had a $35 million box office, for Trancers. So he saw something here.
Tim Thomerson works cheap, I think.
I dare say he works for union minimum. That's not cheap.
I do like this movie in as much as they are trying so hard with everything, and at least it feels like everyone is there to put on the show. And
I mean, here's what I'm going to say is I think that this is Charles Band's favorite movie because he really may have tried the hardest on this one. And then I think, because he'd been broken down with this whole deal he had with Compass Pictures, and then he got kind of broken down with Empire. By the time he started Full Moon, I think he kind of had a new philosophy on, if I lose all of this again, I'm not going to work so hard this time around or something. I don't know how to put it. Like, the budgets are clearly significantly lower in the Full Moon Features era than it is here for most of his stuff. But anyway, he saw some magic here, man. He saw some magic here, and I think the lighting he's proud of. I think the costumes, he thinks this is a Raymond Chandler story.
I mean, in comparison to some other stuff, it almost is.
Hey, this movie suffers from the thing that most really bad sci-fi movies suffer from, which is that we've made too big a world for our budget. We have so because of that, we have to waste time with other things, like whether it's the 15-minute long scene where hobos are playing baseball.
That's my favorite
which
part.
Is the best scene. Yeah.
No, it is not.
It's my favorite because it's so bad, and it's not like it's great because it shouldn't be there, and it's awful, and it's clearly there to just take up more time in this already truncated movie time. And we're like, well, we're going to take 3 minutes out to play a game of baseball. Unreal.
It's like because they did some things that were really cool. Like, I love how they put the miniatures out into what I'm guessing is a lake somewhere where it looks like Los Angeles is completely underwater.
Oh, all the matte paintings. Yeah.
That part's cool. Like, there's a lot of things in this movie where to recommend it. The problem is it suffers from the problem of, oh crap, we've run out of money. And you can feel it at many, many times in this movie, whether it's the 15-minute long, he's now in 1985 Los Angeles. So you have to have probably the least sexy moment in the world where he's talking to a very young Helen Hunt.
Okay. We got some notes here. We might as well get this moving.
I'm sorry. Let's go. Let's get into
let's go ahead and just, we will mention
on your toes. I'm sorry.
I want to mention a couple things though, because I do believe there's a straight line that starts at Blade Runner and ends at Time Cop. And that line does not exist without going through Trancers. Okay.
that's not too far
take
off.
that for what it's worth.
Yes,
and also,
Bruce, we already know that your logic is flawed when it comes to this sort of thing, because when we were having the conversation about werewolf movies, and you had said that there was some terrible movie that you had mentioned
Wolfen
as a werewolf movie, and you went, and this is a better movie than American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, that
Wolfen.
was an insane statement for sure.
And literally, that is literally the moment where I was like, well, I can't trust a single thing this man says anymore when it comes to quality of movie.
Well, this was Helen Hunt's first starring role, 20 years old. And I guess she must not have impressed Charles Band. For some reason, she's not in the sequels.
Well, no,
yes, she is.
Yeah.
She's in all of them?
Not all of them, but she's in a lot of them.
I did not know that. And I thought that maybe she outgrew this pretty fast.
No.
So she's in 2, she's in 3. She might even be in 4.
Oh, good for her, man.
If you'll remember, like in the book and stuff, her and Band got along pretty well.
I don't remember that part at all.
Yeah,
I don't remember whole sections.
Well, exactly.
Now,
I think it's been about a year or two since I've read it and everything. So it's kind of like, but yeah.
I just want to know if we lived in a world without Trancers, would that also be a world without Mad About You? Because I don't want to live in that world.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't mind. I mean,
how
Paul
there's all those
Reiser's fine
people-
and all, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. Mad about you.
You know how you have your people that they, like we're kind of all in this camp where you just say phrases from The Simpsons and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have your people who do that with Seinfeld. There's even people who do it with The Office. I have yet to meet someone who's like, from Mad About You.
In fact, if like we were doing that thing where you pull up some obscure quotes from stuff to show your like nerd cred or whatever, I don't think I could come up with a recognizable quote from Mad About You.
I have a pet theory, which is that I believe there's a character on the TV show Seinfeld, that is a comic on that show that I believe is Paul Reiser, because Paul Reiser seemed to be like junior varsity Seinfeld to me all throughout his entire career.
Right.
The only time he veers off is when he's the bad guy in Aliens. But other than that, he's always sort of kind of Seinfeld, whether it's a stand-up comedy, whether it's Mad About You. I mean, even today, he just seems like he's almost Seinfeld.
Yeah. Kind of an also ran sort of like, well, you're not Seinfeld, but you're all right. You're okay.
Yeah.
He's probably a decent enough hang.
Quentin Tarantino was on a podcast where he talked at length about loving this movie. He thought it had some of the best world building in any movie he had ever seen in the 80s. He thought that the long second was this awesome idea. He thought the twist of Whistler, the guy he went back in time to chase, being the police chief or the police lieutenant, was just an awesome twist. So, Tarantino likes the grindhouse films or whatever, but this one made a big impact on him.
At the same time, too, the man also likes a boatload of garbage.
Yeah, yes, he does. I also think that, like I said previously, like this is a movie that has a lot of ideas and not money, and so when they run out of money, that's when the movie is terrible. But like, there's neat ideas. Like the long second is a great idea. Having him be the cop, the chief of police, like that's a great idea. The problem is everything in between.
Oh man, I was watching the scene at the end where someone is being thrown off of a building. I was just thinking about a floppy human shaped dummy that I saw at the local Spirit Halloween. I need to buy and film some scenes like that soon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
now, when I was younger, I wasn't sure if like Tim Thomerson was like, I wasn't sure if it was the same actor playing the guy in both timelines. Like I couldn't tell if like Phil and Jack were the same actor or different actors. Were you guys ever confused about that?
For a hot second, like the first time, like when he's got the when he's going to shave at the mirror there and everything, because his hair is a bit different and stuff, and I was like, oh, are they? And because he also looked a lot beefier in that
yeah, he looked beefier in present day than he did in the future, if you ask me.
But
I will surprise you with that man he's got.
Yeah, he's a bit like he's a surprisingly a big guy when you like look at those hands and the wrists and everything. He's a bigger dude than you would expect.
Yep. But man, knowing that there were like 6 of these and that these kept going in the Full Moon features era, it's so easy to get him confused with Doll Man, because in a lot of ways, Jack Death and Doll Man, the only difference is like the length of their jacket.
Yeah, this feels like a very much kind of a Coffee Foxy Brown situation where they were like, we want to make a sequel, but like, not really. Let's just change the name of something and a couple of different things, and there you go. It's a completely different thing altogether.
And I guess this is when we should talk about, we meet this officer in the future named Jack Death, and I know what you're thinking, that that's kind of a silly name, but no, it's spelled differently. It's not spelled like you think, so that makes it different. And as I said before, he lives in that mysterious time period between Blade Runner and Time Cop. And the only thing I know about Jack Death when we meet Jack Death is that he hates Trancers, and also Trancers are to Deadites as Tim Thomerson is to Bruce Campbell. You know what I mean? Because I know you said it was Tim Thomerson was Charles Band's De Niro, but I'm getting more like Charles Band was thinking he found, like, he's Sam Raimi and he found his Bruce Campbell with Tim Thomerson. But I would argue that there's some subtle differences between those two in their performances.
What? Because Tim Thomerson's so much funnier?
Sure. Now, here's a question, though. No, for real. I've never seen Tim Thomerson. I my understanding is he did stand up.
He did.
but I've never seen his stand up, and I'm just curious if either of you guys have.
A lot of props.
I've seen about like 10 minutes of his act. Like
it's because the energy I'm getting on screen, I don't imagine I would enjoy his act.
Well, you wouldn't, and well, maybe you would. Maybe only you would. It's like
Ouch.
It's from the 80s. Like it's a very 80s comedian. You know, it's during that time where like, oh, you say that you have 10 minutes? Let's put you on A&E's Evening at the Improv. Like he's that kind of comic, you know?
Yeah.
He's the kind
which I
of
watched
comic,
tons of as a kid, and like you never remember their name, but you like remember the guy in the blue shirt or whatever.
right? And he's during that glut of like, you know, there's all those comedians where you're like, this person's considered a comedian. Like I've never actually heard them say anything funny.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
You know? Like your Paul Risers.
I was gonna. Well, that's funny because I was about to. You just did my work for me. So I was about to be very mean. So I'm glad that you said it and not me.
We all just punch on Paul Risers. Like he deserves.
Hey,
he deserves.
You want to hear a hot take?
None of these things are true.
You want to hear a hot take? I think you could say, "What's the deal? Is Andy Kaufman really a comic?"
Yeah, Andy Kaufman was funny.
Yeah,
he had like funny bits, dude.
Yeah, I would.
Oh man, I watched that Man on the Moon movie he made, and he's just a Jim Carrey ripoff. Anyway, back to the story.
I would like that.
Please hold. There, look, man. Like the problem that I've always had with that movie is that they make it sound like Andy Kaufman had never written a joke in his life. Like he just was like flailing around on stage. The man knew how to write a joke and a punchline, and he was so good at it, in fact, that other people wanted to help him write his style of jokes. Like that is how good he was at that thing. So to have like this movie where Jim Carrey is like, oh, I'm like an idiot savant, but I just like it even at the time, it made me angry.
Yeah, and at the same time too, that's a whole nother.
Well, fortunately, nothing angers me. But
oh, good.
I was like, you guys just gonna let that go? Like I said that and paused.
It just seemed,
just let it go.
It just seemed interesting. We were just like, okay. If that's what he thinks, that's fine.
Yeah,
well, anyway, I got to say that waitress really fooled me because we get introduced into a trancer via
we're just getting into it half hour to the show
because man, they really give us some misdirection here because we got the old chubby guy that looks like he ought to be a trancer sitting there at the booth. Meanwhile, the sweet lady getting the coffee, she's the actual trancer who jumps over the counter with a comically oversized meat cleaver. And sometimes you just see something, you feel like people get you, you know, and I feel like that waitress got me.
Sometimes that waitress is actually a man.
It's a lot of like, I love the design of like his car and everything while he's pulling up to this. It's just bargain basement Blade Runner. And then he's going into this thing, and you figure, and he mentions it right off the bat. Man, I hate Trancers. So we're already off to a Deckard-like hatred of these, things he's going around. And we don't even know what they are yet. And we turn around, and it's a zombie lady. And you're like, okay, this movie, we're zombies now? All right, but this is interesting.
I love it that we get a couple of explanations, but man, they understand that the kind of person who's going to be into this is just going to go with it. Because they're like, Trancers, oh yeah, that mastermind criminal, he's also the only like psychic person who ever existed, so he could do this. Yeah. So don't ask any more questions about that. We still refer to him as a criminal and not an evil psychic. And then the reason I eat Trancers, Trancers killed my wife. All right, back to the story. Like that's how it goes.
It's always Trancers killed my wife or whatever,
We've now said this twice, so now I have to say the thing, which is that, man, I hate Trancers. Yeah, he reminds me of that moment in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the stop motion Rankin and Bass thing, where there's that one guy who goes, I hate toys, and toys hates me. Like, that's really what it felt like to me at the time.
The Burgermeister Meisterburger.
That's right.
Man, I like it though, because you mentioned the matte paintings, the whole idea that Los Angeles is flooded because he's having a nice swim through the Hollywood Hills in what I love that it looks like this low budget scuba suit was simultaneously more expensive and less convincing than just using a regular scuba suit.
Yeah.
But Jack Death gets summoned to a meeting by the wonderful Art LaFleur. And I got to say, this guy's like a great character actor for these kind of movies. I love it when he knows who he is. He's there to chew up the scenery like it's broccoli or whatever. He's just a fun guy. He's small parts in a lot of big movies.
Yeah, he always kind of elevates whatever he's in.
And then we find out at the meeting all about this Whistler character. And the whole idea is that Jack Death has to become a time cop before Time Cop had to become a time cop. And he's got to go back in time to chase down this supervillain who has the psychic power that creates the Trancers, which are, of course, zombies. But, zombies, even by like 1987 or whenever this movie was made, zombies were already kind of like not as original enough.
Yeah.
So they add this little twist. But they also describe that it only works on weak-minded people. Once again, back to the story. Don't ask any more questions. The people that are Trancers just are. Why aren't you? We just aren't. Aren't you worried about getting it? No, we're strong-minded people.
Well, at that same time, too, it's such a get out of jail free card later on in the movie that like it's nice to have that in there because you're just like, okay, see, we laid down those tracks early on. They don't make any sense.
This movie is from 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I wasn't that far off.
No, but it's kind of my biggest problem with this movie is that we know how clever Charles Band can be at hiding budgets, at hiding. Like, I kind of sort of feel like Marvel Television at this point on Disney Plus is a little Charles Bandy because, like empty streets, we're stuck in this meat locker, that kind of thing. So
it's like, Shrunken Heads were right in downtown Manhattan and there's 7 people on the sidewalk.
Right. And so, whether it's 15 minutes of hobo baseball or whatever, he's able to hide his budgets fairly well. The problem with this movie to me is that you have all of these giant ideas. And it's one of those things where like, oh, that was very clever. So you get to see someone be good at their job and simultaneously someone who's awful at their job in the same movie, sometimes within a minute of each other.
Now, how would we describe the savage features of a Trancer? Because this is one of those things where, like, I would think when you got a budget that's not as high as it could be, you have to make decisions. And I think in a movie with any kind of monsters, their appearance needs to be a more important decision than other stuff. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that goes a little bit higher. You don't skimp on the makeup on your creatures, but I feel like these look pretty high school theater.
Are you telling me that like you're not super impressed with just dotting a little calamine lotion on people and going, you're a zombie?
I just can't help it, but I close my eyes and I go like A/B testing with They Live in this movie, and it's just not even in the same ballpark.
They're practically the same film. Same year, darn near the same year.
Yeah. And Carpenter and Band hung out a lot in LA back then.
Yeah, that is true, actually.
What I learned looking through the trivia on this thing is that Tim Thomerson actually he suggested Helen Hunt for this role.
I bet I know why, that dirty old man.
I think so too.
Because right here is actually in my notes when I talk about this. This is something that I think at the time may have been close enough to novel that it got the attention of time travel fanatics. And that's the idea that you travel through your bloodline. So rather than actually physically travel, you just possess the body of your relative. I think that's something that was at least, if not created by Trancers, it was still a fresh take by this would have been the first time people would have experienced that.
I think it's pretty safe to say that Trancers created nothing, that they took a bunch from things that they have already seen. But
because this whole movie is like a greatest sci-fi hits.
I am going to say there are people who find that to be a clever twist, that to them, that was the first time there was a new take on science fiction time travel.
I like it.
I mean, it's a really neat concept for sure. And if this was unique to Trancers at the time, then seriously, like, really good job with it.
And this is where Thomerson comes into play, because it just so happens that Jack Death's relative is a character who's written to be a 30-something portrayed by an actor who's a 40-something who looks at least 50. And he just had a one-night stand with the incredibly 20-year-old Helen Hunt. Like, the whole thing gets you feeling real unbalanced from the beginning with that.
She got a little like a young Jennifer Lawrence thing going on.
And I'm going to say that's actually a comparison I didn't think of, but it's spot on.
Yeah, I mean, guys, they're very and like acting style and stuff. They're not too far off.
She also has that thing that she has that Jennifer has, where it's like they seem much older than they actually are. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now I've got a couple theories here, but if you pay close attention, you're going to notice there's like a certain motif in this film, because every time Phil and Helen Hunt are about to do the stuff, Jack gets pulled into the future and misses the party, so to speak. Did you guys pick up on that?
Yeah, that is pretty funny. Every time, and then the best part is he comes back after the deed and he's mad because he's like, "Oh, come on now, I just missed out."
Now, I think that is very intentional for a couple of reasons. Number one, everybody kind of knew at some level how gross it was, and they didn't want to make us watch that. And then number two, somebody's like, isn't this like his great grandma? Like, I know some people are into that kind of thing, but do we really want to make that kind of movie? The guy that boned his great grandma?
I think it's more like Helen Hunt didn't want to do it. So, and like,
well, you know what? I don't blame her. I'm with Helen Hunt on this.
But
one.
Here's what
I'm on anybody's side.
Now, here's what I've kind of found from his book and everything. It's just like Charles Band never seems like the guy who wants to force anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. Yeah. Like that always seemed like his thing of just like, hey, if people are willing to do it, then yeah, fine, that'll be great. But if not, I'm not forcing you to do it.
He also has a talent of finding people that are willing to do some weird stuff.
This is also very true.
Okay, so it's not like he's a saint. He's not talking anybody out of anything.
Hey, listen,
not talking to
he is saintly if you compare like the group that he hangs out with versus the trauma camp. Are you kidding me? They're basically Mormons over there at Full Moon Picture in comparison.
You know what? I'm with you.
It is true.
But anyway, I was hoping you guys noticed that subtle detail. Also, Helen Hunt is a joke.
Is that you joking?
Yes.
Okay.
That was a subtle joke on my part. I'm sorry you missed it.
I sometimes I really don't know.
Which means I'm succeeding. Okay, so Helen Hunt is a mall elf. And that could mean one thing and one thing only, and that, of course, is that Santa is a trancer. Were you guys shocked? Dare I say shocked that Santa is a trancer?
I was way more shocked to see Bruce Leslie playing Santa. It
did look like you.
You know I would have rocked that role. You know I would have rocked it. And I would have had my own beard. I wouldn't need a fake beard. But this now counts as a Christmas movie. Guys, I'm on the record now. Normal rotation. Everybody, mark your calendars, because now there's going to be an annual. Bruce mentions that Trancers is a Christmas movie every year, and then I act like I've never said that before. That's going to start happening now on an annual basis.
I was so happy that it was a Christmas movie, because the way Helen Hunt was getting dressed and everything, I'm like, my God, if this ain't a Christmas movie, I'm going to be like, why are y'all dressing this woman like this? Because I was getting real curious right there. I was like, I swear this better be Christmas. And it is.
Charles.
I was kind of offended that that Thomerson wasn't dressing in Christmas fair also. Like I wasn't understanding that she was getting ready for work. And like, so he's like, I was like, are they going to a party or something? Like, what are they doing? And how awful would it have been if everyone is dressed like, like Helen Hunt is?
That would be awesome. It would be great if there was.
And just he is in a stupid trench coat.
It would be great. No, if it's like he doesn't know the norms of 1980s. He sees her getting dressed and he just thinks that's how people dress in this time. So that's like the running gag. That would have been great, but they missed their chance.
So this is my first really big note of this movie.
Can I say one more thing about Santa, just in case your big note gets us too far from what I wanted to mention?
Sure.
Keep us on Santa.
Okay, so we got this red-haired kid asking for a long list of presents. Did you guys notice that he asked for a John Doe Mandroid twice?
No.
I have sent you guys the movie poster for the movie Mandroid. So that was like a plug for another Charles Band produced Empire Pictures film, Mandroid, which is clever because he's part man and he's part android. Thus, he's a mandroid. Nobody knows his name. It's RoboCop, guys. You would never guess it unless I broke it down for you.
But they stayed up real late for that one.
Subtle clues that tell you they were ripping off RoboCop in Mandroid.
So my first really big note of this movie is that when Helen Hunt first turns to Thomerson when he's, now he's in 1984. And she says the line, "Did you really mean what you said to me last night? That we're like two souls, blah, 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 blah."
It's so corny like, thing that that this man did not say in a million years.
Never, ever, ever. And she says it with such sincerity. And like the actress herself, hates the line, number one. There's no way Helen Hunt read that line and was like, "Ooh, this is my big line."
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. She was ruining it. She was like, "Man, I would rather make out with this 40-year-old guy for 5 hours on end before I have to say this line, because it's just easier." You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have to be embarrassed about it. Not like that.
And this is the moment where I had that crystal clarity of my own self, where I was like, this is why I would never be a good actor, is because there is no way in a million years I would be able to hit that line the way that Helen Hunt is able to hit this line in this scene, where I mean, there's something about like, there's two souls, then they're together, and it's like, I mean, it's probably 30 seconds long, this one line she has.
Now, sweet Shawsey, you may not know this, but I've had almost 12 hours of filmmaking experience now. And sometimes you just need a director who knows the right way to motivate the actor to get that line. So if you have any questions about how movies are made, you can ask me now.
Bruce, why do you want me to say awful things to you? Like, it's like you're literally setting it up to where I like, it's like you want me to say awful things and just generally be an awful person to you. Why do you keep doing that?
I don't do it on purpose. I don't know what
yes, you do. Yes, you
hurt my feelings
do.
now.
You absolutely do.
You hurt my feelings.
I've been so quiet about this, like, because I really want you to do great. Like, I really do. But then and I think that you noticed that I've been quiet about it. So you're like, "Oh, let me see if I can get Sean to say something truly, truly heinous to me today." Okay. Anyway, so Helen Hunt, like, this is literally the moment where I'm like, I have, my entire life, I thought to myself, like, I probably could do okay. Like, I could hit my marks. I could say my lines to make it sound like I said them, but I could never do this scene. Never in a million years. And, everybody thinks that they're going to be Daniel Day-Lewis when they hit when they hit their mark on camera. But basically, you're in the best you could possibly hope for is being in a Charles Band movie for most people, really.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, back in this day, at least, you got into video stores, people could walk in and like see your face and buy you, like, you were a thing. Like, you didn't even have to have, the big Hollywood machine behind you anymore. It was kind of a crazy time.
And they were union gigs. People got their SAG cards. I mean, John Lovitz in the book kind of points out every time he sees John Lovitz, he would always get a big thank you for giving me some throwaway role so I could get a SAG card.
What movie is that? Do you know?
I don't remember. It's, in the biography he mentions it, but I never took note.
Yeah, off the top of my head.
Man, there's this great story that everybody who knows him has about Lovitz, where it doesn't matter if he's standing next to a homeless person or if he's standing next to the most beautiful woman you've ever seen in your life. Whenever he sees you on the street, he walks up to you and he's like, "Oh, hello there, Adam. How are you? This is my friend, like Barbara. This is my friend Barbara. Jealous?" And it doesn't matter if it's a homeless person or the most beautiful woman in the world. It does not matter. Jealous?
So we get, like, the 80s is, I like the fact that we do the classic, we're going back in time, but we're going back to the time that we're currently in, so we don't have to do any more set dressing or anything from this point out. It's just all like, hey, Shut up.
When they
that's,
first
that's
mentioned
Terminator, right? I mean, that's basically Terminator.
But when they mentioned that they need to go back because Hap Ashby is the ancestor of this Commander Ash or whoever this great leader is, Chairman Ash. So anyway, they
Hold
talk
on a
about.
second. Hold on a second, because I have another. Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
I have another little bit of trivia, which is that Biff Maynard is playing Hap Ashby in this movie, and he is another Thomerson friend. Like he suggested. Thomerson suggested that Biff Maynard be in this movie, and he shows up to set, and he's so drunk that he's literally like hammered drunk during all of the scenes he's in. So when you see Thomerson, kind of guiding him around in those scenes, he's literally guiding the person around, not just the character.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Got to get into my roles here a little bit. Don't worry. I also haven't bathed in months. Hope y'all don't mind.
Well, when they first say he's got to go back and protect this retired baseball player because it's the bloodline of the chairman. I didn't ask a lot of questions. Like, yeah, that makes sense. You kill him, you kill all of his descendants. But then when he's down underneath the place and he's like all, I don't know, he's like all homeless and drunk and stuff. And I'm starting to think, wait, he hasn't had his kid yet. Like they're keeping this guy alive so he can impregnate someone. Yeah, that's what I was like. No, I think if I was sent back on this mission, I would say, it's a tough decision, but no, this guy should not be procreating at this point.
That's a really nice pickup, Bruce. I did not pick up on that. That's really funny.
This is what we're saving? Ugh.
Trust me, he gets it together later and he becomes very, very handsome in 10 years.
But at the same time, too, what if Tim Thomerson had not been there to tell him, hey, listen, you're going to be something big, get your life together one of these days. And what he might not have never become a thing had he not been told that.
Bootstrap paradox, one of my 7 favorite kinds of paradox.
Yeah.
As the Oracle would say.
Give me that cookie.
Give me that cookie.
So this wisecracking little girl shows up in her PJs.
I love this. I love this scene.
Now there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the kid is wisecracking, unlike every 80s sitcom ever.
But I do have some questions, like, why didn't the dude have her put on some jeans and a hoodie or something before she walked across town? Did he steal a car? How did she get transportation? Didn't anybody notice this little girl walking across town in a nightgown? And can it possibly look good for a nightgown clad child to be sneaking into an adult male's swinging bachelor pad, which appears to be about 85% bedroom and 15% bathroom, like a hotel room?
When she's chomping on a cigar, you don't ask questions.
Does he sleep with his door unlocked? Because she just kind of walks in. You don't even hear the doorknob rattling.
What do you think his neon budget is in that apartment? A lot of neon happening.
It was all repurposed from the punk bar. Adam, what did you think about that very, very accurately reproduced 80s punk scene?
It's one of the most hilarious things ever. It is just like this horrible punkized version of Jingle Bells, which is just, and here's the thing. There are actually some like really good punk rock Christmas covers and stuff like that from bands of all, the last 30 years, really. This ain't it. This is pretty bad. All the playing is pretty bad. It's great. It feels like what Europeans thought punk rock was in 1984.
But hey, dry hairs for squids.
It's just, and it's another one of like, we only got 20 people to show up to this and half of them are crew members.
And, Jack Death also has some like spy gadgets, I guess you'd say, because he's got this gun that has 2 hidden vials of time traveling drugs, which is a great part of the story because out of the 2 vials, one gets busted up, bursted, and then he has to choose who gets the only remaining dose. And then he's also got this long second wristwatch, which I like to describe as a watch that makes time stand still as long as it takes to get the shot you need, because it seems like it's a different amount of time the 2 times he uses it, but they say it's 10 seconds. But I gotta tell you, I'd be pretty stressed to get everything done in 10 seconds that he gets done in 10 seconds.
The best part is that you're able to move freely, blah, 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 and do all this stuff. So you think that we're going to get kind of a, your Quicksilver and X-Men kind of deal that's going on here. But at the same time, too, he feels like he's taking a Sunday stroll while he's putting all of these things together, just really drinking in the ambiance of the situation at hand, as opposed to just, I don't know, moving your butt so like a bullet doesn't hit your lady.
You know what it feels like to me? Bruce, you might know this. I don't know if Adam knows this, but there was a sitcom in the 80s that was in syndication called Small Wonder.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I remember that one. Very much so.
And the not so special effects on Small Wonder, one of them was that she would move so fast that that they would like things would miraculously happen very quickly. And most of the time what they would do is they would just speed her up, like they would speed up the video, that she was in. But sometimes what they would do is what they do in this movie, which is that everyone's just moving really slow and she would move a little bit quicker than everyone else, but it's like it's kind of effective because there's something like weirdly otherworldly
it's
about
kind of
it.
Dreamy about it because they're going super, super slow. You're just kind of going slow and it's already slowed down. And so it makes it's ethereal. Yeah.
Right. And the live stage technique is everybody stands still and then other people move around. Instead of moving slow, you try to do the freeze. And I feel like at one point Charles Band was going for the freeze, but he forgot that like when you're drinking water, the water will not freeze, because there's a scene where the guy's like slowed down, but the water, well, it's supposed to be vodka or something, but it's water. The liquid is moving from the bottle to his mouth at normal speed when everything else is standing still. And nobody even thought like maybe that's not a scene we need to leave in, because heaven help us, we wouldn't have missed it. Like it didn't make or break the film.
Well, I felt like it was going at least slow because it splashes on his face by the time that the second hand, finishes up and everything. So I feel like it was going slow enough. It wasn't like
maybe it was. Maybe I didn't give
Bruce,
it enough
how
credit.
much do you think is on the cutting room floor of a Charles Band movie?
Yeah, at an hour and 16 minutes, I'm gonna guess we got darn near everything that.
Yes,
all the parts where you can see the clapboard. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. We cut out just before he said action, and just before cut. Everything else
is that a fair,
on the
you
table.
think you'll give me that one? You guys won't argue with me on that one.
Yeah, they cut those bits out for sure.
And I do have to say that is one of the things that Charles Band is good at with his movies, is that you can't literally see the actor hear the director say action and then start moving.
Mm-hmm.
Like that doesn't happen in Full Moon movies. It doesn't happen in Empire movies. So, but for a lot of these like really bad movies like this, you sometimes you can literally see that the actor is just standing on their spot, on their on their one place, and then the director has clearly called action, and then they start moving.
The boom mic is a little in the shot. You never know.
Can you believe that Charles Band and Klaus Kinski didn't work well together?
No,
that is very hard to believe. Yes,
they're so easygoing guys.
The man who the man who almost killed somebody on set.
Oh, he almost killed someone on Charles Band set, but this time with a knife instead of a gun.
Like you do.
We don't want to digress too far, but yeah, we got the long second, and the watch can only be used once. But I gotta say, in a world when you got time travel, shouldn't you kind of have like live, die, repeat rules?
I liked the fact that that they built it in. They built that into the cake and said, listen, you're only going to get one shot at this. It's a little cheap that they went back to the well, and you knew it was going to happen. But at the same time, too, I at least grant them that they like you said, they built a world there. They made a little thing and they said, shut up, this is how it works. And you just kind of went with it.
And I love it that they gave it the old classic. There's only one bullet left. There's only one MacGuffin left, and there's two of us. What are you going to do now? And then the hero makes the sacrifice in some form. Yeah, so they do that, but they do give us a little bit of that. Oh boy, we sure hope there's a sequel to this one moment when McNulty and the guys, the little girl comes and smirks. And I was kind of picking apart the wardrobe choices. Like, I don't know why they thought she had to be in a nightgown for this role. But aside from that little girl actually does a pretty darn good job at this.
No, the little girl's great. I just like the idea that
smirk is priceless at the end.
That she just woke up in the middle of the night, or he woke up in her body in the middle of the night and was just like, well, I'm going, and then just took off, I guess.
And that made me start wondering, like, he said that was his only relative, but could he not go to one of her parents? I feel like I needed to hear that she was an orphan, like her parents died in a car crash or something. So she really was.
Well, maybe it's the last of the line that's currently there.
Yeah,
maybe that's part of the rule, that it's like got to be like the last of the line. You can't like skip one and go backwards just because, you know, you'd rather be in an adult body than a small child.
I had to stab my dad with a fork to get out of the house.
But I got out of here though.
And I mean, if you're if you're going to pick it apart like that, then, you know, why don't you just go back to, you know, whatever, to medieval times basically and kill somebody. I mean, it'd be so much easier.
But in all seriousness, I don't think that I see anything different than you guys do when I see the movie, but I do love like just feeling like how hard they work to make it. You know, like you could see that, man, they really, really, really wanted this to look good. You know, like there's no cutting corners. It's just the resources were what they were and that sort of thing. And I like those kind of movies. But no, I'm not seeing a different movie than you guys. But I do like to just kind of talk about it from the idea of kind of what we've already pointed out. It's interesting how you can get some really cool and not so cool in movies made in this era when it was really expensive to make a mediocre movie. So people put their all into it.
Yeah, and especially with, you know, the home video market being what it was at that time and everything, and them just trying to fill in, you know, spots that for a thing that was just so darn new at the time.
This was the most critically acclaimed, if that means. It's like saying, you know, this was the most
prettiest Denny's waitress.
Yes. Actually, I don't even want to take it out on the Denny's waitresses, man. They're good people, but you get what we're saying here.
Yes.
It's like, anyhow, I don't get it though. I don't understand.
Put that on the box. Trancers. Yeah. I don't get it. Bruce Leslie.
I don't understand why this would have been singled out the way that it was for the kind of praise that it got, not only in real time, but in retrospect. And I was I don't know, curious if you guys had insight on that.
I think part of it kind of goes to the cinematography for sure. I think a bit of it is
There's some great shots in this.
We're not rolling on Richard Band's music. So it's not, you know.
Man, I was waiting for that. I was waiting for you to bring up Richard Band. That's great.
Yeah.
Great.
The music's not as bad this time, so it's like, okay, all right. Well, it's again, it doesn't sound like bubbling soup, which is what most of his productions sound like, and that ain't in this. Goodness. And therefore, you kind of go, all right, they ain't half bad.
You think there's like a little bit of the guy, like, I drew the short straw, so now I've got to go see the Richard Band movie or the Charles Band movie, and it's like, I really was so annoyed that I got this assignment that I was happy it was a little better than I expected, so I overpraised it.
No,
like, I wonder if some of that happened.
And of course, with your Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that, there are retro reviews, so to speak. People that have reviewed it now that, you know, in 22 or something like that, as opposed to just the reviews that came out in 1984. So take that high number with a little bit of a grain of salt.
This is also, you know, one of those movies where I don't like, when I was a kid, for some reason, for like a year, my parents got me, maybe it was a Christmas present. My parents got me Showtime on just my TV in my bedroom.
Whoa.
Showtime, not HBO.
Whoa, that is an unusual story, I got to tell you.
And so I had it on my TV in my room, and there was all of these movies that I would never have seen if I hadn't had Showtime, because, you know, Showtime was not HBO back then. It's not now either, but at the time it was like the GoBots of of premium cable.
It was, at least it wasn't Cinemax.
It was the Burger King of premium cable. And so like, it was like, there were all of these strange sci-fi movies I had never even thought of before, you know, all of these things. And I always think of this when it comes to a movie like this, because this movie totally would have played on Showtime when I was a kid and had it on my TV in my room as a kid. And so I'm wondering if I would have seen this movie during that time, what would my reaction have been? Because, you know, when you're a dumb kid, you don't know what's good and what's bad. You know what you like and what you don't like. So like, when I was a child, my favorite movie was Star Wars, but my second favorite movie was The Black Hole. You know what I mean? And so I'm wondering if, you know, if you're watching Terminator and RoboCop and you're watching these movies and then Trancers comes out, is this one of those movies where you're like, well, it's the same. It's a sci-fi movie. It takes place in the future. Like, I wonder if I would think that way.
I mean, I think, maybe if you were like 11 or 12, yeah.
I think I would have, because, you know, I was far too old when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out to like that show. But like, I know people that are your age, Adam, watched that show and really, really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And because you were still young enough to enjoy that show. And so I think this might be one of those movies where if I would have seen it when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I might have really liked this movie. Unfortunately, I was the age I am now when I saw it, and I don't.
Yeah, this could feel like that, like the original Ninja Turtles did for me, like in 1990. This would feel like that if I was that kind of young age when watching this, especially in that home video market where you might not be able to see those regular R-rated, you know, your RoboCops and stuff like that, because your parents probably know what RoboCop is, right? But your parents might not know what Trancers is, and they're like, oh, that's all right, it's in the video store, whatever, looks fair enough.
When I was a kid, like, just the titles, not the movies, but I would get Trancers and Scanners confused.
I'm sure that was not unintentional either.
I'm sure that was on purpose.
So it's like if somebody said, hey, do you want to watch Trancers? And I thought they were talking about Scanners, and I was scared to watch it. So it was a long time before I ever watched Trancers because I thought it was scary.
I'd love the idea of you watching this, waiting for somebody's head to blow up the whole time, and really being disappointed.
That actually happened. Yes. Especially when they're talking about the psychic guy can control the weak-minded. I thought, oh, they're going to overpower the psychic guy, and his head's the one that explodes, right?
Listen,
and then I get to the end, and I'm like, well, this is some BS.
That's one of the few things that this thing doesn't have is more of that crazy psychic power. Like, it's one of the few things they didn't steal from in this particular film. Well,
he has no psychic power. They just realized, oh crap, we got to explain these Trancers somehow.
Yeah, they try their best to explain everything in this. Well, before we get to our final review, we do have to find out how this old hodgepodge of ideas relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
I just need to find it, and usually I can get it in that time where I go, thank you, Adam, I have a prepared statement, but not this week. Someone's
Turn your hearing aid up, Mr. Stallone. You got to get your stuff in order. We're ready for you. We hope that you're ready for us. Grab your blackest of coffees and enjoy yourself a little bit of sweet Chauncey.
Look out, Mr. Stallone. Those chicken wings are really spicy. Don't eat those. It's been a while. But it feels like putting on an old pair of jeans. Not my favorite pair, but a pair that didn't make me look fat as I was going through a husky period. Anyway, this week's Stallone connection is Art LaFleur, a character actor from my youth who just died in 2021 at the age of 79. He's probably best known for his roles in Field of Dreams and The Sandlot and the criminally underrated remake of The Blob from 1988. But the reason why we're all here is because of his role as Captain Sears in the movie Cobra, starring you, Sylvester Stallone. Now, when I think of you at your most coked out, most on-set, monstrous, craziest, this is the movie I think of. This is the movie that has so many good behind-the-scenes stories that we've spoken about before on this very podcast. Like the fact that there is a 49-minute longer work print cut of this movie floating around somewhere that includes X-rated scenes. The X rating is for violence, so if someone was hoping to see sweaty bits like I was, I am now the bearer of bad news. Or the day you showed up to set and told the cinematographer that he needed to work harder because the film was falling behind, so he gave the moment a 3 Mississippi. He said back to you, if you would keep your hands off Brigitte Nielsen's ass and stop showing off in front of your bodyguards, maybe the show would finish on time. And somehow you didn't fire him, surprising everyone. Art LaFleur made a career of playing precinct captains and loud uncles and the next door neighbor who wore Hawaiian shirts and playing Babe Ruth. And the world was better for it. He's one of those actors who added a little bit of professionalism to whatever project he was on, including movies that don't deserve it, like the movie Trancers. So there's your Stallone connection this week. Character actor Art LaFleur. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Shawnsy from the internet.
He's just one of those guys, man. Like 170 credits just everywhere in a day, and you know his face when you see him. You may not know all the things, but you just go, who is that guy? He's one of those just great character actors. Always delivers.
Yep.
All right, here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own Robin rating system. Bruce, where does Trancers from 1984 fall on the Robin rating system for you?
I mean, it's a Damian Wayne. It is what it is. I think that it's one of those fondly remembered bad movies. One thing I'm really curious, though, is when we hear what you have to say about it, Sean, because I can never predict like which one of the sort of like bad movies has the campy charm for you and which ones really annoy you. Because I thought you might find this one more charming because I seem to remember you liking Doll Man, and I thought this was a similar vein, and I got this one wrong. So I'm still trying to like help me peg sort out like which kind of bad you like and which kind you don't, so I can avoid. I'm not intentionally trying to punish people.
No, I know. And Bruce, I think the secret to this, honestly, is if I saw it when I was young, when I was a kid, like I did with Doll Man. I mean, I was probably during that showtime in, like 10, 11, 12 years old. Like that's probably where I saw Doll Man, which is why it's so near and dear to my heart versus this movie if it were flipped, that wouldn't have surprised me either. Where like, if I saw Trancers as a child instead of Doll Man, maybe I would feel differently, because they are very similar movies. You're not wrong, but just the fondness for Doll Man from when I was a kid probably carried it through for me.
So what's that grade?
Oh, man, this is a tough one because this was really hard to get through. Like the dialogue is so awful.
Yeah, when it's hitting, it's got its fun moments, but boy, when it is not, it is dragging you along concrete and it hurts.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, we did watch the director's cut.
16 more minutes of pure adrenaline action.
It's not Jason Todd. It's like, it's it's a really low Stephanie Brown.
Okay.
Because when like we said, like there's the moments in here where you're like, whether it's Lost Angeles as they call it, like that part's neat. There's certain things in it where you're like, oh man, they're really going for it. But then, like I said, whether it's the 15-minute long hobo baseball scene or, like the you can feel them padding out the time of this movie. And man, and the dialogue is so bad when it's bad that it like you said, it hurt. Like there's moments in this movie that just hurt to watch. Like it's like you're being punished for watching the movie.
For me, I'm gonna go low Damien. I don't hate it. Like I said, I think there's enough small things to kind of recommend it, especially like if you're looking at the kind of Charles Band Full Moon catalog kind of as a whole, sort of. This is a good place to go because it's a good representation of the work that's being done, especially within this early '80s era and everything. And like I said, like Bruce and I have realized reading Charles Band's book and everything, the man had a giant impact on movies. I don't want to say cinema per se, but movies themselves in just so many different ways that you can't deny that. And this is certainly a chapter in that book that is very important. And therefore, I think it's worth at least a watch. And heaven's sake, it's on Tubi and just about everywhere because Charles Band at least wants you to see his stuff. I'll give him credit for that.
I have a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Does this feel like a movie to you, or does this just feel like content? You know what I mean by that?
I think so. Yeah, I feel like they
it-
wanted to make a movie here.
You do?
I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just now, granted, they wanted to make a movie for the same reason like the Italians wanted to make a movie. It's called I See Something and Monkey See, Monkey Do, and I think I can do that for cheap. And I believe that, but I believe the motivation behind it still is to put out something that's entertaining, at least based upon the man's own words. That's what it feels like, at least. But then again, that is also his own words. So, you want to, of course, pat yourself on the back the best as you can.
Sure.
So who's to say? Well, that is it for this episode, everybody. Next week, we'll talk about what we're doing in just a minute. Bruce, in the meantime, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'm just kind of hanging out, taking it easy, spending more time in my neighborhood and less online. So just check me out. I might.
So try to, drive through Bruce's neighborhood. You're not sure which one that is, but I would encourage you to just roll down your windows and, cruise along there. Just bros, just see what happens. Bruce might come out. You never know. Sean, what else?
We have a new show, a new episode of our Star Wars 30 Questions, Ahsoka 30 Questions.
Mm-hmm.
Please check that out, where we ask 30 questions of the latest 2 episodes that just dropped of the television series Ahsoka on Disney Plus.
It's so nice to see that, first episode into this season, and we didn't even super plug it coming up or anything. And we got a lot of emails with questions and stuff like that. So it's nice to see that people are at least it's gonna be an interesting one, people. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Just go subscribe to Star Wars 30 Questions. It's gonna be a time. That is it, everybody. Next week, okay, as we said previously, we did the Patreon vote here, and Sweet Shaunsey Loves Spaceships got the #1 spot here. So Sean, what is gonna be our first movie for the Sweet Shaunsey Loves Spaceships month?
Well, we will be watching the 1979 movie Star Odyssey, which is in no way Star Wars.
No.
I believe it's Italian. I'm not 100% certain. This might be... I have not watched this one, so I don't know its value. I don't know if this is going to be like a message from space. But we are going to check it out, and you should check it out. And if you hate it within the first 30 seconds, just listen to the podcast next week, because we'll be doing a blow-by-blow of it.
And currently available on Tubi, so go check that out, everybody.
They have lightsabers on the movie poster, if that tells you anything.
So it's Italian. That's what we're saying. Just Italian, which is to say we're just going to rip the crap out of everything, and we don't care about nothing. That is it, everybody.
Probably good-looking ladies and a lot of bad special effects.
Oh yeah, a couple of
every Italian movie ever.
Mm-hmm. Great dubbing too. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for Star Odyssey from 1979. For Sweet Shaunsey Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.